Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar on Update Site Information Walkthrough. My name is Rocio Ramirez, and I am the Digital Content and Client Training Specialist here at Exact, and I will be guiding you guys through today's presentation. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please add your questions in the questions box. We will be monitoring those and pausing periodically to ensure your questions are answered. As usual, feel free to download today's presentation to follow along or to keep as a reference. You can find that in the handout section. This webinar will be recorded and shared with you via email 1 hour after the webinar ends and will also be made available on our YouTube channel. And we're going to give everyone just a few more minutes to let everyone get logged on and get their audio sorted. We'll give it about 1 or 2 minutes and we'll be back with you in just a few moments. All right, and without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So for today's agenda, we're going to first go over just a general overview of what update site information is, what are some of the benefits of using this feature, what will your site see when they actually access that email and that link that you'll share with them, and what you are some best practices or some things you might want to consider reviewing before actually using this feature. Then we're going to move on into the configuration of it. So how do you set up the update site information feature to work as smoothly as possible for your clinical partners? And then we'll dive into sending those emails. What is the process for you to actually ensure those emails are sent on a designated time, a specific date that you'd like to be those to be sent? And then lastly, once those emails are sent, how do you review those results? What are the next steps in terms of moving forward with this whole March mailing process? All right, so diving into that general overview first off. So what is update site information? So generally, this is an email that is intended to be sent prior to March 1st, which is that big day where you send out that slot request requesting availability for slots for any number of rotations where sites are accepting to take students. This is not just intended to be sent prior to March 1st. You can send it at any point in time throughout the year, but it basically allows you to collect updated information from your clinical partners, information on their general site information, on their staff, personnel updates, whether someone has left, is no longer there, maybe there's a name change, phone number that's updated, things like that. You can also use this feature to notify your clinical partners of any changes. Let's say you are a brand new client of ours, you were just using Exact, and this is the first time you're using the system to send out an email. This is a good way to kind of introduce and say, hey, we're using Exact now, this is what you can expect, since a lot of the processes that clinical sites will use to interact with our system is through links. So think of this feature, they'll receive an email with a link. The slot request is the same process, and evaluations they complete is also handled in that way. So it helps them kind of get acquainted to what their working relationship will look like using the system. And another thing that will be good for you if you do use the feature is it allows you to kind of preview the mailability of the contacts that you have within the system. So you'll see how many of your emails bounce back, how many were successfully delivered, so you can kind of get an idea of what some information that you might need to update prior to March 1st. So it's helpful in that way, so you know if you need to make any updates before March 1st. This was also previously known as save the date. So if any of you folks remember that term from long ago, this is that same feature. All right, so before we dive into setting this up, we wanted to kind of show you what the feature actually looks like once it's all said and done and sent. So this is a sample email of what your sites might receive. Of course, you can craft this email any way you'd like, but it will contain the sites that they're associated with. You'll see some staff details there, just to kind of give them a preview of the information you have on file. And it might trigger some information in them to say, hey, that's actually Christine is no longer there, our requirements are different. So it kind of prompts them to click that link to go ahead and make those updates. But they're going to go ahead and click on that link. And once they do, they'll be redirected to another tab within their browser. It'll take them over to this kind of wizard process that just takes them through each of the steps. And on the first step there, they're going to see their basic site information, and they can make updates to things like their let me open that up here, their general site email, their phone number, their site address. If any of those have changed, they can go ahead and update that there on that first step. As they move along, they'll move on to the staff information. So here they can see for each of the sites that they're associated with, who is listed as a staff member. Once they open that up, they can make any changes to this information here. There is an option here for allowing the site to let you know whether that staff is no longer there. Previously, I know that some of sites were including like deleted, no longer here, like in the first name or the last name, somewhere in there to try to let you know. But this actually allows them to let you know that they're no longer there with this question here. Once they are done with that section, they'll move on to the requirements list. So this is going to be anything that they require from you or the student prior to having the student start a placement at their facility. So they can look at whatever that is checked off already. They can make updates to that list, but this is going to be based on whatever standard list you have in the system. And then on the last section here, they're able to provide any documents for you. These documents can vary. It can be specific requirements that they need from you or the student prior to a placement, but they could be just, a list of additional locations that they have available that fall under their contract. It can really be anything that they want to share with you. So they're able to provide that information to you in this section and then finish out the process. All right, so not seeing any questions here, so we're going to go ahead and move right along. Now, before you begin the process, if you are interested in using this feature, just some kind of updates or some general information that we might recommend for you is if you do plan on sending this, we do recommend that you send this the first week of February, so very early on in the month of February to allow enough time for sites to actually respond with information, and then it allows you to have some buffer time as well to make those updates in the system. So any changes that they make, it'll come into a widget that you can review and update automatically very easily, but still that time between them actually opening the email, providing the information, and then you going through and making those changes, we want to allow you guys enough time. So usually we say the first week of February is generally a good time to send out that email. And before you actually send it out or even begin the process, this is actually going to be helpful even for the March mailing as well. But reviewing your site staff, you want to ensure that there is at least one recipient listed for each of your clinical sites set to receive the email. And we do have a report to help you manage that. Ooh, I do see a question here. Oh, Kara, I do see your question. What do you mean send what email for the first week of February? This is for the update site information email. That's the email we were looking at earlier here. I'm just going to try to go back here to see if I can draft this here really quick, this email here. So this is not the slot request, but it is the update site information email that we have available in the system that you can send out to request updated information from your clinical partners. So we recommend sending it out that first week of February. And let me know if you have any follow-up questions. We are new users. Those who do this, does it bombard SCCs? Do they complete it? That is actually a good question. I don't know if anyone in the audience here has any feedback on that or thoughts that they'd like to share. Feel free to raise your hand if you'd like to provide your input. Let me see if I have someone listed here. Maybe has. Okay, very, very good question, Kara. We do have a lot of people who do use this email just to send this out, especially if you are a new user, just to see, if you are going to get a lot of bounce backs, and it's a month in advance to March 1st. So I don't think that it would be too much of an email. Oh, and I do see your hand raised here. Let me see if Maria has anything she'd like to share with us. I went ahead and unmuted you, Maria. Go ahead. And thank you, Lisa, for the question was, we are new users, those who do this, does it bombard SCCEs? Do they complete it? That was the question. It doesn't look like Maria had any comments on that. So I'm going to go ahead and,
Oh, can you hear me now?
yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I muted myself accidentally. Yes, so it does send an email to them. We find that we'll get more bounce backs. At least that helps us to know that when we send out the March 1st mailing, that those emails are no longer correct. And then we can reach out to the site to find out who took over as the new SCCE, who we should be sending it to instead. So when the March 1st mailing does go out, then we have it to the correct person. A lot of times they'll go in and make changes to the data, but we're very careful that we don't just accept their changes because sometimes we have this part where we put an SCCE, let's say they've left, we make them a former staff. We don't want them just deleting it because we like to keep our history. So we are very, very careful about just accepting changes that they make, but it is helpful to have the information.
Awesome, wonderful. Thank you for that feedback. Awesome. So yeah, I do kind of bounce back on that what Maria's comments were. I think it's early enough. It's not too close. That's why we recommend sending it very early on. That way your sites have some time between that first email that you send out and then that March mailing email that will go out on March 1st. Awesome. Okay. Kara appreciates the insight. All right, so let's move along here back onto the this slide here. So before you actually prepare to configure your update site information email, again, reviewing who is going to receive it. We do have a report handy that you can use to review this information. This is going to apply for both the update site information feature and the slot request. So you only have to do the work once and it'll work for both. And that report can be found by going to reports, other reports, and slot request staff report. So I'm going to show you guys what that looks like here in a second. So once you navigate to the report, once you load it, this is what the report will look like. So right off the bat here, some of the things that you'll notice is that there will already be two filters applied to this report. It's going to show you active sites and sites that are automatically included in the slot request. By default, these things, if your site is active, it's usually included in the slot request unless you've gone in and turned that off for any of your sites. But those two filters will be on, so it allows you to quickly see who you're going to be sending it to. And on this list here, you want to focus on these two columns here. So this column here, it's going to show you who will receive your email from that particular site. So for Apple Crest Nursing Center, both Wendy and I will receive an email if this were to be sent. You also have a column right next to it here, which shows you who will not be receiving the slot request, but is a staff listed at that site. So here we have Jason and Joshua that are also staff here, but they won't be receiving it. So this kind of easily lets you see who's receiving the email, who is not, and easily make changes if that is incorrect. So if I notice, well, Jason is an SCCE and he should receive that notification, I can quickly go into that pencil icon and it'll take me right over to the site profile where I can make those email preference changes. So this report shows you what are the preferences set, and that pencil icon will allow you to make those changes if you do need to make any. Now, those two filters for active sites and sites included in the slot request are already added on by default, but there may be some filters that you want to apply to make sure you catch everyone that you need to actually send out an email to. So once you open up the advanced search, you're going to see here that there's a bunch of filters. So let's say that you want to see any sites that you've maybe have excluded from your emails. If there are any sites, maybe something has changed, a contract has been renewed, and you'd like to email them again, you can easily find those by changing that filter there. You also have the option for active sites. So maybe you've inactivated some of your sites. You just want to double check and make sure that that list is still accurate. You can quickly filter for those as well. And then this handy filter here is very helpful. So let's say that you have a site added onto your system, but you have not actually added any staff to that site. If there are no staff, then no email will be sent. This filter here, you'll select the no contacts listed, and that report will filter for any site that does not have at least one contact listed. So that way you can find the sites that don't have anyone listed that you really, can update if you need to. Just make sure that no one is missed from your mailing. So those are some handy filters you can kind of update or play around with and see what kind of data is in those different sections. All right. Any questions on that report before we move forward? I can pause here just briefly to see if there's any questions. Okay, not seeing any questions, so we'll move along. So moving on into the configuration portion of it. So how do you set this up to actually send out? So in your system, you are going to either create or copy a slot request. If you are a brand new user, you will be creating a slot request. If you have used these features in the past, you can copy a previously used slot request. And copying just allows you to save some time. If you've already done this process a few times, you really like the preferences you've set up in your requests, you kind of copy that over, save yourself a few clicks by copying instead of creating. And to do either of these, you're going to go into slot request on your left-hand menu. And then once you get to this page, you're going to go ahead and click on create new slot request. And once you do, the pop-up there will appear and it'll ask you, are you trying to create or are you trying to copy? Now, if you are creating a brand new slot request, you'll be redirected to the slot request itself where you can get started, give your slot request a name, and then dive into your preferences. So really straightforward if you are creating a new slot request. However, if you are copying an existing slot request, you'll be taken to this page here where you will select the slot request you'd like to copy or clone. So here you can quickly just check off the one that you know you'd like to copy, or if you'd like to see a preview before copying to make sure it's the right one, you can actually click on the preview icon for the desired slot request. And the system will then show you the preferences for each of the sections in that slot request. So you can kind of take a look, see if that's the right one, click clone if it is, or close that out, try another one and see which one you'd like to copy. But either way, once you find the right one and you click clone, then it will open up the slot request for you here. And once you're either creating or copying and you find the right one you'd like to copy, the first thing you'll want to do is give your slot request a title. Now this title is for internal purposes only, so you can call this whatever you'd like. You can give it your program name and say this is my 2023 slot request, since that's the current year. If you're sending out for requests for rotations in the next year, you can call it the 2024 slot request, but this title is solely for your internal team to view only. So this won't show up to clinical partners or to students, anything like that. It's just for your team to view. Once you've provided the slot request title, there's going to be a section here, basic configuration. We're going to go over that in our next webinar, which is the slot request walkthrough. So we'll dive into fine detail of what exactly is in that section. But for the purpose of the update site information, all you have to worry about is this slot request preference section. And so this here asks you a couple of questions about your participation. So it asks you, will your program send out update site information emails? will your program be participating in the slot request process? So these are just basic yes or no questions, and this is for our team to kind of have some awareness as to how many of our programs are participating, are sending their emails via Exact, who is not, just to keep an eye on everyone in terms of what's going on with each of our programs. So that's a simple yes or no. And I would like to kind of take a moment here to just note that for those that have used this process in the past, I know that these questions might look a little bit different, and that's because the process is actually changing this year. Previously, these questions actually asked you, when would you like your emails to be sent? Support will be sending it for you. So we are slowly transitioning a bit here and making it a more autonomous process for each of our users so that you are able to kind of configure this, set this up at your own pace, and schedule your emails to be sent on your own. So this is very different from what was previously the process that we used in place, where we did a lot of hand holding. The support team would kind of contact each and every one of you, just ensuring that everything was done, and we'd send multiple reminder emails. And a lot of our clients, you know, they've come to know the process. They're very familiar with the system and how to send it, and they have their own timelines, or they're waiting for their schedule to be, you know, finalized to actually set everything up. So we are kind of taking a step back, and we're taking a more of a hands-off approach and allowing each program to set this up, schedule their own emails at their own pace. And of course, we have these webinars that walk you through this process that you can come back to and listen to in the recordings. Support is always there for you if you need assistance. But in terms of sending these out, it does have a disclaimer for both these options. It says, once you say, yes, I will be sending out these emails, you will be scheduling them as well on your own. And of course, we'll go over that process in a second, but just wanted to kind of take some time to highlight that here. And once you've answered both of those questions, the last question is just providing a name, contact. In case we do need to reach out to you, our support team will be just doing a kind of check at, you know, as we get closer to March 1st to make sure everything is squared away. So if we do need to contact you, we do need some up-to-date contact information there. All right. So we're going to go ahead and keep on moving along. So once you've answered that slot request preference section, that's the only section you need to worry about. Then you're going to go ahead and move on to the next section. And the next section is going to be the session selection. Now, this is where this is more related to the slot request, where it's asking you which rotations should be included in your email. For the purpose of the update site information, it doesn't really matter if something is selected or not, but in order to move forward, you do need to have at least one rotation selected. So if you have not yet created your sessions in the system, you can choose one from, you know, the last year or the current year. If you have something in here, as long as you have one selected, it will allow you to move forward. So you can always come back to this section and update it if you haven't added in your sessions yet. So you'll go ahead and select at least one and then move on to the next section. And then we're going to go into the email configuration section. So here we have a bunch of different email options. And again, we'll dive into those in the slot request walkthrough. But for the purpose of this webinar, we're going to focus on the update site information email. So right when you get to this page, this is going to be the item listed here. And you're going to want to configure your email, which allows you to view a sample of your email, make edits to it, make some changes here. So once you open that up, it'll look a little bit like this. So it's going to be a pop-up, and basically what you'll do here is you're going to compose your email. You'll have a starting template to work with that we've already crafted for you, but of course you can always modify it to your liking here. So you can update your subject line if you'd like to change that, add in your program name, update that verbiage there. You can CC and blind copy any users so that when your email is sent, that person will be copied in every single email that is sent. Now, just make sure that that is something that you do want because they'd receive any number of emails. It could be, 500 emails that they get in their inbox. So that's an option, but that's what will happen if you include an email in there. Now, there's also this option here, show site requirements on update site information email. This is going to be by default turned off. And when this email goes out, there's going to be a merge field, which pulls information into the email depending on which site it's sending the email to. It's called location details. And that merge field looks a bit like this here. So by default, it's going to include the site name and a column for the staff. So that gives, again, the site a preview of what information you have on file, which they can then update. However, if you update this and set that to yes, it will add an additional column for requirements. So if you'd like to show that to your sites in that body of that email, go ahead and turn that on so that it includes a column for requirements. But you'll make the changes to your subject, to your message here. You can also add any attachments. So if there are any documents you'd like to attach to your email, this is where you would do that as well. And once you're all done, you'll go ahead and click save, and that will close the pop-up there and save your changes, and you'll be back on this screen. And once you're back on the screen, once you've configured your email, you're going to go ahead and select your email here option to ensure that it tells the system that this is an email you'd like to send out. So you'll go ahead and select that, and then you'll go ahead and click save and next and move on to the next section. All right, and so in the contact information configuration and attachments section, the only section that we really need to worry about is this question here. Would you like your site to update site information? If you're using this feature, then yes, of course, you'd want that to be set to yes. It will open up this section underneath it with a bunch of different fields where you get to decide what information your site should be able to update. So all of these items will have an open checkbox like you see here for notes, and you get to just kind of click off the information you'd like for them to be able to change. So if there's something you don't want them to update, maybe you don't want them to update their site address, but everything else they can, you can go ahead and update, check off those boxes accordingly. And once you're all done with checking those off, then you're going to go ahead and click save and next and move on to the last section. In the review and confirm section, this is basically shows you all of the preferences that you've set up in each of the sections on that to-do list. But because we're just sending out the update site information or setting this up for the update site information, we're not done yet. So you'll go ahead and click confirm. And when the pop-up shows up, you'll just leave it as no, you have not confirmed the slot request configuration, which just says you're not done yet with the process. And you'll go ahead and click OK to kind of save all of your changes. All right. Any questions on the configuration portion before we move on to how to send those emails? I'll go ahead and give it just a brief moment here to see if anyone has any questions. All right, not seeing any questions here. So we'll go ahead and move on to this next portion. So sending your emails, this is some of our programs have opted to do this on their own in the past, but again, everyone will now be doing this process. This will be the process you'll follow to actually schedule your emails to be sent. So again, each program will schedule their emails to be sent. Now this process can be done on the fly. So if you need to do this on February 1st and you like to do it on that day, on that time, you can. But let's say you want to get this done ahead of time. You review your data, you set this up by the end of the week, and you'd like for it to be ready to go and just scheduled to be sent on February 1st. That is something you can do as well. So you can use this process when you're ready. It can be at that moment in time or scheduled for a future date as well. And to get to this process, you're going to go over to slot requests and you're going to click on schedule notification for your desired slot request here. So once you do that, this page here will show you the different emails that you can send. So you're going to have both the slot request by default, and you will also have the update site information option here. And you're going to go ahead and click on schedule notification. And once you do, the system will then load all of the staff that will receive an email. So it's super important that you go ahead and review who will be receiving your email prior to getting to the step. Because once you schedule your emails, any changes that you do to like an email ID, to maybe adding a new staff person, they won't be taken into account. So super important to verify and update your information first before actually scheduling your emails. So on this page here, you can go ahead and start picking and choosing from the list. But one of the very, very important things to do here is before actually selecting recipients, set the page to show you everything. So this has a limit of showing you 50 records at a time. So that's kind of the default, but you can of course change this. So once you get to this page here, you'll want to scroll to the very bottom of the page and set that to show all instead of show 50 at a time. That way everything displays nicely on one page. You can easily select everything in one go versus having to, do those in groups. So you'll set that to show all records, and once you do, the screen will reload, it'll refresh, and you'll be at the top of the page here. And you're going to click on this drop down arrow and select all. So it's super easy to select everyone. Again, you can kind of go through and, remove anyone that you don't want to send your email to, but easy way to select everyone. Once you've selected those that you would like to send an email to, you're going to go ahead and click on schedule a request. And once you do, a drawer will open with a 3-step wizard that kind of walks you through sending your emails. So the first step here, it'll show you your email that you've configured. So that was done in the configuration portion. So any changes that you've done there, those will show up here for you. And it just gives you kind of just a last minute, like, hey, check your email. Any last minute edits can be done here. So if you want to make any changes to your subject, to the body of your email, you can do that here. You can, of course, CC, blind copy any users as needed if you'd like them to receive your email. Let's see here. There's a few more options available. I'm trying to get this to work. There's an override recipient's email option. So this is super helpful if you'd like to test your email and just make sure, the logo looks right, the kind of the layout of your email looks the way you want it to. So if you would like to test this, we recommend doing this for one single user. That way you don't get that many emails in your inbox. So you'd select just one person, and in the override recipient's email, you'd enter in your own personal email. That way, when you actually send it, you would get that in your inbox, and it would still include the information of the person you were supposed to send it to, but it shows you the email exactly as it would appear to a clinical site. So if you're trying to test this, just kind of see the email for yourself before sending it, this is a good way to do that. You can set the expiration date for the access link. So the link that is included in the body of the email has an expiration date. The default is 60 days. However, if you'd like to extend that to a longer period of time, you can, of course, make that change there. And then the other important piece in this first step is going to be scheduling your notification on. So that will be blank by default. And if you leave it blank and go through the process, your email will be sent instantly. So if you would like to, maybe on February 2nd or February 3rd, log in and then actually send your emails live in real time as you would a regular email, you would leave this blank because then your email would be sent instantly. However, if you're setting this up ahead of time and you'd like for it to be sent on a future date, then you'll want to click in that box to pick the date and time of your choosing. So once you click on that box there, it'll open up a calendar for you. So you'll click on this little arrow there to navigate to, that following month or whatever date you'd like to get to. And once you're in the month that you'd like, you're going to pick your day. Once you pick your day, it'll show you the times available. So you can go ahead and say 8 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever time you prefer. And it does go down to the minute. So after you initially pick 8 a.m., it'll ask you, do you want it to go at 8, 8:05, 8:10? So you'll pick your time one more time, and that will then load your time here, as you can see that there. So that is how you know that your email will be scheduled for a future date and not to be sent instantly. Okay. So that's how you'll schedule that for a future date. And so once you're all done in this first step here, you'll then go ahead and move along to the next step. These next two steps are relatively easy. So on the step 2, you're going to upload. So simply on the screen, once you get to the screen, you just wait for the notifications to load. So it's going to upload them in groups of or bundles of 25 records at a time. So if you have like 500 sites, it might take it a little bit of time to load everything, but you just kind of have to wait for the system to get to 100% in terms of upload. Once it's all done, then here you can actually preview your email if you'd like, just to see what an email would look like. So if you don't want to test it yourself, you just want to see a view sample, that is an option here. So it shows you your email, it's just not in your inbox, but it shows you that content of what it will look like for each of your clinical sites. It shows you a few samples you can click through. So you can view that sample once it's loaded. But otherwise, once you've taken a look at it, you're ready to go, then you'll go ahead and click send. And once you click send, the system will say, are you sure you want to send or schedule any, X number of emails? Now, if you've left that schedule notification blank, it is going to send. If you selected a date, it will schedule. So that's why it has both the verbiages there. So once you say yes, it'll then load you into step 3, which is the sending of it. So it's going to either schedule or send. Now, if you scheduled, the progress bar will reach 100% in like 2 seconds, and it will say your emails have been scheduled for the date and time you selected previously. If you sent instantly, then this will look a bit different. It'll actually start loading the emails and sending them out. So this might take a little bit longer if you're actually sending them out on the day of, but it'll show you a row for each person, and it'll kind of say that was sent, how many are pending, how many are completed. So this progress bar will take a little bit longer to kind of show you when everything has been sent. So this is if you're sending instantly to your sites. All right, any questions on sending emails? Can you send our emails for us like yours in the past? That is a question from Trent. Unfortunately, that process has changed. So this is the only method to actually send your emails through the system. What about site-specific requests? Cindy, I know that is you're Eastern Washington, and I believe so. That is a specific feature you guys are using, so our support team will continue to assist because it does require some technical support on that end. So we will continue to set up the technical aspect of it for it, yes. All right, so yes, so if you are sending out your update site information email, again, the process is changing this year where you as the program have to go in and actually complete this process of selecting your recipients, scheduling them for a specific date and time. Again, you can do this now, you can do this tomorrow, you can do this as we get closer to the date when you're sending out your emails, but this is the new way of sending out your emails through the system. It's
always been available, but we're kind of making the move to having each program be more autonomous in terms of sending this out, since it's super easy, very, very easy to get this done, not too complex here. And of course, you'll have the recording to kind of go back to. We have some material we can share with you to kind of walk you through that process. But hopefully this is comprehensive in terms of explaining the concept of sending it. I have another question from Kara here. Would this process be similar with the Prism migration? Kara, I'm assuming the question is the process of sending the email, is it similar in Prism? We do have this feature in Prism as well, and it looks a little different. The screens look a bit different, but you do the same process. You configure your update site information feature, and then you schedule your emails as well. That is the same process as well on that front. Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and keep moving along here. All right, so let's say you've already canceled or you've scheduled your emails, but maybe you need to cancel for some reason. You need to review your contacts, or you scheduled ahead of time and you weren't ready yet for whatever reason. If you do need to cancel any scheduled emails that you've already set, let's say you set this up today to be sent on February 1st and you realize you need to redo it, or you'd like to just undo your work, it is very possible to kind of cancel that out very easily. So you're going to go into slot request, and again in that schedule notification section. Once you're here, again, you're going to see here it is scheduled for that specific date. So I've already gone through, I've already made the selections and set that date there. So it shows you that something has been scheduled. You go ahead and click on schedule notification, and it'll take you right back to this page. On this page, you're going to select notification history. So once you open or select that option there, it's going to take you to this page that just kind of shows you technical information, but your most recent scheduling of emails will show up at the very top. So this here, it shows me I've scheduled an email on this date, and I scheduled it to be sent on February 1st, and it's a total of 50 notifications. And you can see the status of it is scheduled. And so to get rid of this scheduled email, if I no longer want to send it, if I want to just cancel it and redo it at a later time, I'm going to go ahead and click on dismiss. And once I do, that will change the status from scheduled to canceled, like you see this one here. So that will undo it, and then you can go back and schedule it for a later date if you wanted to change the date, maybe the time, maybe you have some new contacts that you forgot to add, you wanted to add on there. So you can always dismiss it, redo it again once you're all done. All right, so on to our last section of next steps in terms of reviewing your results and what comes after. All right, so once your emails have gone out, you'll want to take a look and see how many emails were sent, how many were bounced, who has started to click on our link, who has read our email, you know, who's responding, what are some of the updates we've received. So those are some of the things you'd want to take a look at. So to review that kind of like just numbers in terms of how many emails were sent out, you're going to go into slot request and you're going to select analyze for your desired slot request. And once you open that up, it'll show you this page here. So you're going to see the statistics section at the very top, which will show you, it'll show you a breakdown between the two different types of emails you can send, but it'll say how many emails were sent, how many bounce back. So this is the email section you want to look out for to see if any were not successfully delivered. How many have actually clicked on the link, which means they've read your email, they've opened that link, maybe they haven't offered information or they have. So that will show up there. And once you, all of these are clickable. So if you wanted to just take a look and see which sites have actually clicked the link or which sites are tied to those bounce back emails, you can actually open up that report and it will look a little like this. So for those bounce emails, this will show you those contacts, that email address, and you can then view their sites that they belong to. So you can go in, update their email address, see what's going on. Maybe there's a typo in there or some type of error with the email address. Maybe they have a firewall or some type of technical setup that doesn't allow emails from our system. So that is something that you can kind of figure out from looking at this list here. All right, so that is how you can review those results there. Another update or a result that you'll receive is going to be some updates. So once those actually start trickling through, you're going to see that via a widget called Site Information Update. So that's going to show up on your dashboard, on your home screen when you first log on. So once you log on, if you see this widget here, it'll show you just kind of like a total number of how many updates have been done to your data. And those updates don't go in automatically. You do have to review and approve them first before they show up in the system. So you'll have a tab for each of the updates, so sites, staff, requirements, and then those documents. And any changes that they've done will show up in yellow. So here we can see for this particular site, you can see the old value, they had no phone number, but they went ahead and added in their phone number. So it'll highlight those in yellow for you to easily see. If that looks good, you'll simply click approve. It'll then update your system and show that new information. Or if that is not correct information, or maybe the format that they provided in is incorrect, you can go ahead and delete that so it does not change your information if that's not an update you want in the system. So that's how you'll go ahead and process those updates. I'm not seeing any questions here. So we'll go ahead and keep on moving along here. All right, some resources available to you that you can kind of expect as we get closer to March 1st and to the sending of this update site information email. You should expect to see a dashboard message in your system when you log on. We've done this every year, but we're going to go ahead and post that up there. So it includes like links to our webinars, links to some resources, materials that you can access that walk you through this process as you complete this. You will be receiving Thursday tips starting this week, which will look a little bit like the screenshot here on the right side. So just so that since we do have version 3 and Prism users at the very top in the header, you'll see that steps logo and you'll also see version 3. So that's how you'll know that the email is intended for version 3 users. So we'll try to include some healthy tips that just kind of tell you, like maybe it's time to schedule your email, maybe it's time to review, some part of the system, kind of reiterating the information that we're sharing during these webinars with you in just bite-sized chunks that are more digestible and easier to read, or just quick reads. We also do have 2 more upcoming webinars. So you're going to have the slot request walkthrough, that's January 24th. And then we have managing offered slots and following up with sites that will be March 7th. So those are the next 2 slot request webinars that we have for you that you can sign up for. And of course, these Thursday tips will be coming in weekly until right around that time of managing offered slots to kind of keep you up to date on this whole process. All right, and that brings us to the end of this webinar. I'll give it a few moments to see if anyone has any additional questions. If you'd like to see something in the system, I'm more than happy to log on and show you guys on a live screen if you're needing to see something on there. But I'll give it a few moments to see if anyone has any additional questions. I do see a hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Ruth. Go ahead, Ruth. And you also might need
Hear
to
me
unmute.
now?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
You mentioned that there were handouts. Where are they located? of the
So
presentation?
so you should have a GoToWebinar control panel. It's like a little pop-up, and there should be a handout section. You'll see audio, webcam, questions, polls, and then there should be a handout section, and that's where that presentation should be there for you.
Okay.
Do you see that?
Is it at the on the lower left bottom?
Yes, it should be on the lower bottom.
Hold on. I see it, but it's not letting me click on anything.
Okay, yeah, I can also send it to you after this webinar ends if you are not able to download it.
All right, great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, any other questions here? I don't see any other questions. Let me just take a quick look here. Okay, so it looks like we are all set. If you have a few minutes, we'd love to hear from you. Stick around once this webinar ends for a short survey to let us know how we're doing, what can be improved, and any additional topics you'd like to see in the future. But otherwise, have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.